Bow, 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 down, down, bow, 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 bow. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, that's weird. All right. So then how do I... What is all this for? What does all this do? Let's take a little look-see here and... Bow, bow, down, bow, 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 bow. Appreciate anyone who's hanging out dealing with my nonsense right off the rip here. We are just running some tests. There doesn't seem to be any lag on the camera, so let's go and just take a little peek here. All right. How does it look on there? How does it look? Oh, is it oh, it's lagging out on the live stream pretty hard, isn't it? Oh, it's just like kind of way behind. Kind of way behind. I think it's a little behind. I think it's a little behind. I think it's a little behind. Well, I don't know. Oh, okay, that's just the control panel that I'm watching. So it's I think everything is just a little bit behind where I'm at live, but it doesn't seem to be any lag so far. Just kind of checking my camera latency around. So, oh, you know what I should get is I should get a second monitor. Because I'd like this to stay up here and be able to read the chat while also looking at these. What if I did this? What if I did this? How does this look? Oops. Then I could. Okay, how does this look? Hmm. 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 Let me know in the chat there how this looks once we get there. I realize that I'm a little bit ahead of the live stream. Let me know in the chat how this looks and or sounds. Are we lagged out pretty hard? Um, you know, that type of jazz. We're just running some tests here, folks. We are just running some tests here, just kind of checking on some things. We got some articles here that would be kind of fun. Unfortunately, Zadarius Smith was released by the Detroit Lions, but let's be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back, mostly because we got some news here coming nationally for us here. We should hop into that here in a second. Let me hit this coffee real quick. Right now, I got it at quarter to 12 right now, so we are checking things out. We won't be too long here on the test. I'm not going to read all these articles. I will, though, however, kind of just run a mock, not a mock draft, but just kind of like a mock, like what a mock live stream would look like, simply so that I can maybe watch it back, see how everything handled. It appears to be everything's holding pretty strong. I have it pulled up on another monitor here where I'm trying to see how lagged out we are. I don't see any lag, though. I don't see any lag whatsoever. We just jumped sites to another page. I'm going to leave this up here to kind of just check things as we go along. Thanks for hanging out. Whoever else is in here, it's super cool of you. Pardon the unprofessional setup that we got going on right now and what we're trying to do. I'm just obviously testing out the new laptop. For those of you that were here or seen last week's live stream, I kind of lost my marbles. But okay, so everything I was able to change it looked good. So Khalil Mack, agrees to an $18 million contract extension ahead of 2025 NFL free agency. That's wild because they released Joey Bosa, who was originally drafted by the Chargers, and we know that Khalil Mack has made his way to, I always call them San Diego, and I realize that that's not the right, San Diego's not the right name. I need something to prop this up on. Something that isn't my microphone. So anyway, Khalil Mack, I think he was originally drafted by the Bears, and then went to, at the time, Oakland to play for the Raiders, and then made his way to San Diego / Los Angeles. So they ended up on an $18 million contract extension, though they released Joey Bosa. Kind of just a different twist on things. Typically, you would see teams want to keep their longtime defensive stars, but maybe it was time for a change of scenery for Joey Bosa. He's probably going to head at what we used to say across the bay over to what we used to say San Francisco. Now they're no longer in San Francisco. Probably play with his brother and chase a Super Bowl championship there. Can I pull this back? Okay, there we go. All right, boom. Now I can still have the chat pulled up. As well as, okay, and then can I interact with the chat? Hello, chat. Okay, cool. So I can interact with the chat, engage with your audience. What is this? Okay, start a poll. Is this okay for nah? Nah? No. Yes or no? Start poll. Boom. Is it a timed poll? Okay, cool. That's cool. Let's see how quickly things are. Hey, things are reacting pretty fast. Okay, cool. And then I can end the poll whenever I want over there. Okay, cool. Cool. Excellent. I like, okay, and then I can come over here and select pin. Then I can like pin the message. All right, cool. Ha. All right, that's cool. So far, that's cool. All right, cool. Okay, all right. So now we're cooking with gas, boys. All right, now we're cooking with gas. We got a little bit of stumbling, bumbling, fumbling, rumbling going on over here. I don't know how long we're going to go here. We're just going to keep farting around a little bit here. Just pretend that we're doing a live, normal live show, what we would like to do as a live show. So one of the best defensive players of his generation is staying put. Pass rusher Khalil Mack agreed to re-sign with the LA Chargers on a 1-year, $18 million contract. According to the old Chef Meister, the deal is reportedly fully guaranteed. Damn. Khalil Mack will be 34 years old during the 2025 season. He seemed open to potentially retiring after the Chargers lost to the Texans in the playoffs in January, which wouldn't be surprising. He's been around for a while. He's done quite a bit. He's seen a lot, taken his fair share of licks. And, getting an $18 million 1 year, fully guaranteed little golden parachute, if you will, potentially on your way out the door, because it's going to take an awful lot for the LA Chargers to turn it around and not only win a division title in the West with, obviously, the big bad Chiefs, who don't seem to be that big and bad anymore, if you're, unless you're the wife or someone driving a car on one of their rookie wide receivers, if they continue to draft rookie wide receivers who continue to get into legal trouble. Or, maybe the Raiders might surprise some people under Pete Carroll with Geno Smith there to kind of calm the waters. Maybe they make some moves. Brock Bowers is legit superstar tight end in this league. Maybe they elevate a running back somewhere in the draft. Maybe they go instead of going quarterback like everyone kind of expects them to do. Maybe they jump up and grab Genty there out of Boise State. Right? He's very Jahmyr Gibbs-esque. And he could benefit from the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit here with the sudden resurgence in the importance of running backs in the league and the evolution back to a more ground and pound and defensive led NFL. We'll see if that trend continues moving to the future. I think it will. Man, it's a lot different ahead. He had different thoughts, blah, blah, blah. Schefter reported in January that he decided to play in 2025 and would hit the market as an unrestricted free agent. This is welcome news for the Chargers, who jumped at the chance to re-sign him after he was dominant during the 24 campaign. In fact, he posted a PFF grade of 90.4 last season, continuing to an astounding career defined by consistency. Yeah, Khalil Mack is up there with the Aaron Donalds of the world, a very dominant force in the league from day one. And Khalil Mack, though, taking a bit of a less than traditional route to get to the NFL, even though he was a top 5 pick, if I recall. I feel like he was maybe even a top 3 pick. But he didn't come from a big school. Khalil Mack came from the world-renowned University of Buffalo. I believe that's where he's from. I believe that's where Khalil Mack is from. But it wasn't a big school, so good on him. Plenty of the 34-year-olds would like to be their peak at this stage of their careers, but Mack remained an overwhelming defensive force. Hell, I would like to be getting $18 million when I was 34 years old. Fully guaranteed. There's some other news that popped off. We're not going to really break down into it, but Myles Garrett is now the highest paid defensive player in all of NFL history. So everyone who had this disillusion that he was going to somehow come to Detroit and pair up with Aiden Hutchinson, although it was a professional wrestling-esque, seemingly hyped up storyline that they were trying to push, the money wasn't there. The Browns just going to shell out all kinds of big bucks to keep Mr. Garrett in town. I don't know if it's just for the money or if he decided that he really just loved being in Cleveland. There must be something cooking there. Maybe he really likes Kevin Stefanski. It'd be hard not to like Kevin Stefanski. He seems like a pretty stand-up guy. And then over here, obviously, we see DK Metcalf was traded. He wanted a trade. He wanted out of Seattle. So DK Metcalf took his talents elsewhere and was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, what Pittsburgh could be doing here is getting ready to move on from the George Pickens turning into Antonio Brown situation, right? Maybe after Antonio Brown had his little fiasco there in Pittsburgh, and knowing how long Mike Tomlin has been there, maybe the front office, Mike Tomlin and company, was just like, you know what, we see the freight train that's coming, and we're just going to go ahead and dodge this bullet. And it happened that simultaneously a freak athlete like DK Metcalf he wanted out of Seattle, and whatever's going on in Seattle is an interesting situation. Trading Geno Smith, releasing Tyler Lockett, and now trading DK Metcalf, who has the ability. DK Metcalf has all of the intangibles to be a number 1 wide receiver in this league, as well as the number 1 wide receiver in the league, if that makes sense. I think that if given the opportunity, DK Metcalf is a better physical talent than Justin Jefferson. He runs maybe not as crispy of his routes, probably a little bit faster. Obviously, he's a lot bigger than your Amon-Ra St. Browns, your Jamar Chases. But again, what he makes up for in physicality and being able to get the 50-50 balls similar to Calvin Johnson, maybe not quite as quick on the breaks in and out of routes like an Amon-Ra St. Brown or a Jamar Chase. But DK Metcalf going to Pittsburgh, that's huge for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not really sure what their plan is at the quarterback position moving forward. I do think that they have a plan, if that is to go after a quarterback in the draft, or maybe they really like what they have with Justin Fields there. Maybe this year, where he was sprinkled in, playing only when necessary or specifically drawn up plays, under the calm, guided hand of Mike Tomlin with the veteran leadership and presence of Jamarcus Russell under the cool guided hand of Jamarcus Russell. Russell Wilson. potentially could have matured and helped season develop Justin Fields in a way that he needed in Chicago, but was never given that opportunity because Chicago'd him pretty hard, much like they're going to do with Caleb Williams and Benedict Arnold Johnson, who will not win any games in Chicago, hopefully. So that's a cool little thing for DK Metcalf. I like what DK Metcalf can do on the field. Not really a fan of him in Seattle. I don't really like the Seattle Seabags so much. Kenneth Walker being there, though, is kind of a nice little tie back here to Michigan State, to East Lansing, where as much as I begrudgingly hate to admit it, I do root for the green and white. Certain situations in their past 10, 15, 20 years here, though, is a big black eye on the university. But we're not going to really delve into that. Let's kick it on over because the plan here is that we will be doing a live show, roughly an hour, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, Monday through Wednesday during the off season, potentially Monday through Thursday. And then once the season gets underway, we will more than likely be going Monday through Friday, at least an hour every morning. Now that my job is starting to calm down a little bit, we'll get a little bit of stability over there. Not so many goofy hours and a bunch of overtime for me. So what I would like to end up doing is obviously allocating like an hour of time every day to do a live stream. And then we want to do in that hour, segment of time dedicated to the national news of the NFL, right? What's popping off throughout the league. Talk about that, talk a little bit about that, and then we want to kick it over and do 20, 25 minutes roughly of Detroit Lions content, because that is ultimately what we are here, is a channel focused mostly on the Detroit Lions, though we do want to start branching out into a more generalized, wider net for the NFL, maybe pick up some subscribers along the way. That'd be pretty cool to kind of grow this year and expand. We're sitting cool at 620, 621, sometimes 622, depending on the day. Subscribers. A year ago we had just eclipsed 400. So, we'll call that a plus 250. Why not? We've had some ups, some in, some outs, some here, some theirs, and I like where we're at. We're plugging along nicely. We would like to push, though. Come draft time, it'd be cool if we were sitting at the 700 mark. So hopefully we'll be able to grow, develop, and get into it. So all that to say that I appreciate you guys hanging out with me this morning. And we're gonna just continue on with the story. If you haven't already, go ahead and smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. This is a little test. Now I do wonder, since we are testing, let's go ahead and pull OBS back up. I don't want to lose you guys here. No, because I'd have to go back into it. So what I really do need is I guess I need a second monitor here to just kind of set my studio screen off to one side and be able to because what I'd like to do is be able to interject sliders that I have built, the call to action type stuff and that type of yaz. I don't really know what I'm saying. Go ahead and close it and poll. Does that lag it out too much? Hello. Okay, cool. All right. So far we are. Wow. So far are we we are not lagged at all. I'm not getting any lag on my end. How are we doing over here on the live feed? I can't tell if I'm lagged out or if it was when I was... Okay, well, I can see myself playing around on the mouse. Okay, all right. Hey, yeah, we are not lagged, and we are actually not that far behind as far as the live stream to recording. So kick it over here. They're going to talk about, because it is Monday, let's go ahead and get a little Monday news in here. A little mock draft watch into your offensive lineman as top pick for Lions post-combine. Yeah, I have seen a lot of hype around this guy, Donovan Jackson, out of Ohio State. You can see him. This is just going to... NFL Scouting Combine is complete, and free agency begins next week. Yeah, this was written a couple days ago. Free agency by Tim 20man has changing plans, teams in the NFL draft. But here's a look at some of the most recent mock draft predictions for the Lions at number 28. We see Donovan Jackson. He'd be a perfect replacement for Kevin Zeitler. Azari Thomas, corner out of Florida. I'm not too wild about going corner in the first round. Donovan Jackson, guard out of Ohio State. Nick Scorton, edge, Texas A&M. If we're going to go edge and Mike Green is already gone, look to trade out at 28. Charles Davis, Donovan Jackson, some guy at the Athletic, Kenneth Grant, big defensive tackle out of Michigan. Again, if we're going to go, unless one of the top-end guys is there on the defensive line, I don't like going defensive line, knowing who can be there in the second round and the type of value we might be able to get for the number 28 pick overall. If we can number 28 and trade back to like number 35, number 34, and then get a second round, obviously number 34, and then like a third and potentially even like a sixth rounder, that'd be kind of nice too. We got the outside linebacker from Ohio State. Johan Savannah, offensive line from Arizona. That would be a free agent. Looks like we are really just going Kevin Zeitler going to be a free agent. Gray Zabel, offensive line, North Dakota State. No one helped themselves more in the Senior Bowl than Zabel, who played primarily at left tackle at North Dakota. And experienced at guard at center, too. He was used solely in the interior and mobile and looked like a 10-year veteran where no matter where he lined up. So what I do like about this guy, this Gray Zabel, is the experience he has. Who was that kid out of Duke last year? I think he went to Tampa. He was drafted as a guard, and they ended up moving over to center, and he was a dominant threat over there. Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle. Lions get a serious nose tackle with the prospect with a plus run-stuffing skill and a glimmer of pass rush ability. Gray Zabel, North Dakota. Zabel projects as an interior offensive lineman at the next level. Zeitler is not likely returning to the Motor City, so Zabel comes to play offensive guard with the potential flexibility to play wherever if called into action. Jihad Campbell. Yeah, I like this Jihad Campbell guy. Out of Alabama, played mostly off-ball linebacker at Alabama, but he's more than capable of being an edge rusher. This is before Shamar Stewart. I like the Shamar Stewart idea too, though, again, if you can trade back. Jihad Campbell, probably. I do not see us going linebacker now in the first two rounds, mostly because Derek Barnes, and we will talk about that, re-signed with us just this morning. James Pierce Jr., I don't understand how or where. Now, this James Pierce Jr. situation. This James Pierce Jr. thing. I've seen him go as high as number 4 or 5, right? This guy's a freak. And, a 4'4", 40 with a 6'5" frame. I do like him, though, again, he's going to be there? Is he not going to be there? He can go in the top 10 easily, but we also seen this happen with Terry and Arnold last year. You know, if you're sitting there and it's 26 and James Pierce Jr. is not there, do you again do the same thing you did with Terry and Arnold and pull the trigger, try and move up and ahead and get yourself that edge rusher? Zeke Aruru out of Boston College. Landon Jackson, edge out of Arkansas. I like this guy. He's not bad. He transferred from LSU, so he's a top-end recruit at one point. 13 sacks over 2 seasons. That wasn't very impressive. Tuimalu out of Ohio State. I don't know about that. Ezir Iruku, whatever. And another Donovan Jackson. Tyler Booker out of Alabama. So it's looking like glamour spots are not going to happen. You're seeing, other than one spot here, who was he? Who was he? Who had the one glamour spot here? Way up at the top. Way up past this cat. All right, here we go. Lance Zierlein. No, he wasn't a kicker. That was Legatron. Greg Zierlein. Azari Thomas. Detroit could go a few directions here, but improving the back end is a long way. Physical man press corner. But that. So I think that the defensive back position will be addressed via free agency. Namely, we do need to have more veteran leadership depth and stability, more so than the rookie would bring. Now, Terrion Arnold is no longer a rookie, and he grew an awful lot during the season. So I expect him to take tremendous strides this offseason Terrion Arnold should come into camp being our number 1 corner. Is that too much to ask for? Terrion Arnold should come into camp being our number 1 corner. And I do fully expect Enos Rakestraw Jr. to follow suit in his development. We do have at least 3, as long as Amik Robertson comes back, 3 relatively strong corners, although unproven at one of them. Corner in the first round, not too fond of it. Corner in the second round, yeah, give me that. Give me that all day long. So I'm looking, looks like everybody else is with me on the meat and potatoes, either offensive line, I guess Donovan Jackson might not be that bad, or defensive end, though I do expect Brad Holmes to do what Brad Holmes does every year and fiddly-dee fuck around, and everyone else is going to find out the magic that he pulls. You heard me speak earlier. This is coming to us from Detroit Lions just this morning, 9 a.m. It is now 12:06 p.m. Happy afternoon. You did hear me speak that Derek Barnes has agreed to a contract extension, right? Derek Barnes, who played really well up until last year when he got hurt and missed almost the entire season. Barnes has started 26 of 51 games and recorded 194 tackles, 114 solo, 12 tackles for losses, 8 quarterback hits, 4 sacks, 4 passes defended, a forced fumble, and of course that big interception in the divisional round 2 years ago against Tampa to lock us in and take us to the NFC Championship game. Barnes has started 3 postseason contests in Detroit, highlighted by a game-stealing interception in the 2023 NFL division, blah, blah, blah. He originally entered the 4th round as a 4th rounder, right? I do like Derek Barnes. Are we not going to get any? Oh, the terms of the contract were not disclosed. Gotcha. I do think I seen somewhere where he's making like 18 mil. They did, I think, pay. I mean, he has grown a lot. This isn't as in-depth as I had wanted. He has grown a lot as an outside linebacker, and he does fit our system well. He knows what he's doing, and Calvin Shepard does like him. So familiarity, athleticism, and rehabbing off of a knee injury is something that he should be able to accomplish, especially at this level. Look for Derek Barnes to be that strong will linebacker that we missed the majority of last season. You know, he went down, and then Rodrigo came in and played like a man possessed, and then he went down. And you guys know the story of the Detroit Lions last year. It was just injury after injury after injury after injury. And hopefully this year we can stay healthy with a lot of veteran presence coming back healthy. Maybe Carlton Davis resigns. Derek Barnes, though, being there is a calming factor, and it adds consistency and synergy to the linebacker room. When you keep everybody there in-house, yeah, you add faces, but the faces that you add are through the draft. They're not a lot of free agencies. We've seen Jalen Reeves-Maben leave, right? You can expect then that Rodrigo will have an expanded role in the defense. Maybe Neiman sticks around. He didn't play great, but he didn't play awful last year. Maybe he stays as one of your special teamers, depth players, and you start to develop that linebacker room to now where maybe you don't have to play so much nickel and dime. You can play a solid 4-3 defense with Barnes, Anzalone, and Jack Campbell calling the shots at the green dot at the mic, right? I'm not mad at the Derek Barnes re-signing. Do I think we overpaid for him? If I recall, if it is $18 million a year, not terrible. Not overpaying, but you're paying enough to get the relatively solid player. I think you're paying exact market value for Derek Barnes. You might even be getting a couple $1 million a year discount off of Derek Barnes. So that is some news here. Now we're going to try one last thing. We're just going to test out. I do think, though, that I would like to maybe develop the show into something where at the back end we do watch a little something from time to time. And this is something that has really just kind of stuck with me for a while now. I talked about it a lot in my personal life, and that is the SS United States. Okay? I realize that this is kind of going to get real dorky, but the SS United States is a real sore spot for me. And what I have here is one of my favorite channels. This is Mike Brady over at Ocean Liner Designs. So go subscribe to Ocean Liner Designs. This guy puts together fantastic content. And I'm really big into ocean liners. The ocean scares me. You're never going to catch me out in the ocean, but I love learning about the history of the stuff. And he really sums up in this video exactly how I feel about the SS United States. So what I'd like us to do is sit back and just kind of for the next 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes or so, maybe less, we're just going to kind of sit back and enjoy some content from some other content creators, some things that I like to watch, some non-NFL stuff to kind of refresh our palate and sort of develop us more into a unified culture, right? Something that is not dividing, but something that I think can help us learn and grow as individuals. I'd like to kind of help us become better people through, health, fitness, but also through information and knowledge. And I do think that YouTube is a wonderful place to help learn and grow. I learn a lot of things through this. Not everything is factual, and you do have to research some stuff. But this guy I found is very, very good. So let's go ahead and just let's tap in here and let's just sit back and learn about the SS United States a little bit. Her last voyage, what's going to happen to her, a brief history of her, and also just I can't explain how much Mike Brady really sums up how I and what seems to be quite a few people in the, I guess, ocean liner fan club or sect of YouTube kind of feels about the situation unfolding and what has happened to the SS United States. So just, prop your feet up and, oh, hey, what's up? Hey, looking much smoother. Thank you, Chase. Sorry, but I'm trying to watch the chat over on another screen here. It's a little delayed, bud. But shout out, I'm chasing Chase. This is my dude, yo. We go way back. Helped me with my technical issues over here, bro. It looks good, huh? You were right, bro. You were totally right on the specs of this new rig here. And it is, not only is it seemingly handling, I had a bunch of windows open at the same time, and I'm about to stream a video here. Not only is it handling everything seemingly really well, but, bro, I've been playing Civ and Farthest Frontier. What's it, all good? And Farthest Frontier, Forever Frontier, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a game that I like to play. I'm having, like, no issues with the graphics turned to a level that I've never experienced before. Like, bro, this is for real, Chase, for real, bro. This is thanks to you, dude. So, when I would watch videos of people playing Civ, I thought that they had everything sped way up. I didn't realize that that's how smooth the game is supposed to run, and I've logged almost 5,000 hours on Civ 6. So I'm enjoying Civ at a whole nother level. It's like playing the game brand new all over again. So, dude, for real, thank you very much for helping me understand a little bit more and expanding my knowledge on computer stuff that I am completely illiterate towards. Thank you, bro, for your assistance with this. And then in turn with that, and it's ironic that you come in at this exact time of the video when I'm trying to, this back end of the hour streams that I'd like to do where we're going to kind of help develop ourselves and become better people. With a little bit of information you were able to give me, I then did a little bit of diving myself and studied up a little bit. Ironically, went over to my folks this weekend and just, I'm always glad to help. And I appreciate you're always glad to help. I went over to my folks and helped them select a new laptop because they ironically just also needed one. So with the information that you were able to give me and expand my knowledge, I then shared it with other people and we were able to help others. So for real, props, dude. Thank you so much. And that is exactly what we're trying to do here now. With the back end, I've been saying that I want to do like an hour-long morning show. And on the back end here, the last 20, 15 minutes, we're just going to kind of expand our knowledge and become better people together as a community, something that isn't NFL or Detroit Lions content related all the time. Sometimes it might be, but like right now, we're going to learn a little bit about the SS United States and her last voyage. That's what we're going to do here. So for real, props to you, dude. I'm chasing Chase. If you guys haven't, go subscribe to his channel. He's a good friend of mine, dude. And I was actually thinking about it this morning. We go back to like what, middle school? Was it middle school or was it junior high? Because I for real think it was middle school that we first met. So that's, I mean, shit, we've been out of high school for almost 20 years. So that's what, 25, 26 years now. So my guy, for real, props. I dig it, dude. Thank you. That's what I was hoping to do is that like, we could kind of like, change things up a little bit so we're not just bottlenecked into one thing. So let's roll with this here. Can you hear it okay?
the sleek new United States, America's bid for supremacy in the luxury liner class, tests her sea legs. Leaving Newport News, Virginia for Atlantic speed trials, the 52,000-ton, 990-foot craft is the largest and fastest ever built this side of the ocean.
Look at that. Look at that big old beauty. Oh, no, what the hell? Okay. Whoops.
From childhood, Gibbs had actually trained.
Whoa, what is going on here? What is going on here? What the hell is going on here? What did I do? What is all this down here? Okay, sorry, pardon the technical difficulties, dude. I'm like, what is this? What the hell is this? What is happening? Oh, I had the find bar opened. Gotcha. Damn. Bro, you're probably used to streaming, and I'm like, you must feel like an alien watching chimpanzees, dude. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. We got it figured out. Look at that. What I wanted to say was the SS United States is the biggest, fastest ocean liner ever built. She was the pride and joy of American engineering and everything you could ever possibly imagine. Encapsulating everything that was the glory of the American age, wrapped up into one big, beautiful boat. Just absolutely astonishing what went into this vessel. And she was the blue ribbon holder, but unfortunately, she came into service. Golly, man, could you imagine if she was 10? Well, if she was 10 years earlier, she might have been called up to duty for World War II. But the ocean liners met their demise thanks to the evolution of the jetliner. And because ocean liners were never engineered to be what we now consider to be cruise ships, where a ship is designed for enjoyment, leisure, the ocean liner was designed to knife through the Atlantic Ocean to move people, not to necessarily be a enjoyable trip, but we are moving people, and we are moving, mail, we are moving product, we are moving cargo here. We are not here to necessarily be a luxury liner. So that's the big difference between a cruise ship and an ocean liner. Very rudimentary difference, or a very rudimentary explanation of the difference. God damn, though. Just the... Woo!
The traditional brooms will go up if she beats the record both ways. We don't know what the Queen Elizabeth can do. She's never had a crack at the record, but there's no question of a battle of the Atlantic. Reports say that with the record won, the United States will settle down to the 30-knot service of the Queen's.
Look at just like, first of all, how awesome it was that we had video capture technology to be able to get the last glimpses of a bygone era.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your friend Mike Brady from Ocean Liner Designs.
Hello, Mike
Now,
Brady
more than a
from
few of
Ocean
you
Liner
have emailed
Designs.
me about the news coming out of Philadelphia over the last week, and a lot of you are asking how I'm feeling about this. And to tell you the truth, here's how I'm feeling.
Not great, Bob.
I just have a resounding feeling of being bummed out, and I'm angry and I'm upset. I don't know who I'm angry and upset at, to be entirely honest with you. So this is going to be less of a educated, reasoned video.
That's kind of how I feel. It's so ridiculous that I'm angry and upset over what's happening to this old ship. But for me, it's just such a fucking comparison and a perfect allegory for how we've been custodians of our country over the past 30, 40 years, right? And how we've let the SS United States just rot away underneath us by prioritizing so many other things. Is
And to be entirely honest with you,
this isn't a political stance or whatever.
really just a rant. Maybe this is how I cope. But here we go. I've seen a lot of commentary about the SS United States online. A lot of people arguing about how it should have been saved and what could have happened to it instead of the current plan. As of the time of recording this video, it's currently being towed out to Florida to be sunk in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's going to become a giant artificial reef.
That's an actual picture. That's not an AI rendering or image. That's literally what's left of her. And she's just being just drugged through the ocean.
And the general consensus online is
Appreciate it.
that's a bad thing. I'm honestly less bummed out by the current plan as it sits. I think given the scenario and given the circumstances that were currently at play, the dynamic of actually what it would take to save such a ship and the fact that nobody was stepping up to do it.
Listen to this statistic.
It seems that this is probably,
some wild-ass stat.
almost the lesser of two evils, because just to get it straight out of the way, the United States being scrapped, broken apart bit by bit would have been pretty heartbreaking, possibly even more heartbreaking than seeing it sunk to become
of the statistic of
an artificial reef.
How
That's
much it would cost
up for debate.
to salvage
Possibly a scrapping is more a dignified end, but seeing her sunk and become an artificial reef means she's going to be around technically a lot longer. I would probably push back on claims that she's going to be accessible to the public, because what percentage of the public are actually qualified to go down and dive on wrecks like the United States?
On my scuba tank
I don't
and
know,
go
but
see
I'm going
the
to assume
SS
it's
United States.
very small. And I'm not among that group. So the idea has been that the county that she's being towed to in Florida will set up a museum with parts of the ship that you can walk through and look at. And
that would be cool if they set if they took one of the funnels, the forefunnel and the superstructure off of it, and were able to salvage and refurbish the superstructure into an actual cool museum. That'd be pretty cool, but that would be a lot of work to remove the superstructure off of the vessel, transfer it, refurbish it, repair it, obviously repaint it, and then we're going to salvage some of the other equipment off of her. That'd be pretty cool. It's something I would love to go see.
That's a pretty cool thing if they manage to pull that off and they make that happen. That would be great. But why are we here? How did we get to this point? The ship has been sitting there in Philly for as long as I've been alive.
Yeah,
and one of the comments that's really been rubbing me the wrong way that I've been seeing online is people saying the ship has been gutted. There's no interiors, which is basically true. The interiors were stripped out. All the asbestos that was in there was taken out. We'll get back to why there was all that asbestos in a minute. But all of it was gutted. And
the SS United States had so much asbestos in it because the guy who designed the SS United States, I think was a brother tandem, but the one dude in particular, after the fire on the, was it Costa Mare or something like that? There was a little bit there where it wasn't necessarily the top priority because we had made such steps in maritime disasters as far as life preservation after the breach of a hull, the sinking of a ship, and then rescue efforts. Unfortunately, one thing that kind of skipped everybody's mind was fires on vessels, on ships, big ocean liners. So the guy who designed the SS United States just packed her full of asbestos because it was flame retardant, and he was admittedly paranoid about fires at sea.
The ship was left floating in at that wharf, at that dock in Philadelphia for years and years and years, waiting for a buyer or waiting for someone to step forward and help it out. And it began to look a little bit sad from the outside, and she kind of looks like a ghost ship. But some of the comments I've been seeing online in response to people saying, we need to preserve this history, we need to save this history, is people saying things like, what history? This ship didn't ever really do anything that impressive. She won a speed record, but what history? It's not the Queen Mary, it didn't carry troops. If you're of that opinion, that the United States is not historically important.
And when he says the Queen Mary, he means the original Queen Mary, not the Queen Mary 2, which is also in service now. I just watched an interesting video. You guys check it out on his channel. He interviews the guy who designed the QM2, and just some interesting quirks of the vessel. Just something you can check out if this is the type of stuff that might interest you.
Then you're probably an idiot. And here's why. The SS United States comes from a time when the United States of America, its namesake nation, was really one-upping itself again and again after a series of huge successes. Obviously, with the conclusion of the Second World War, the United States was riding a huge high and it really had become one of the world's first true industrialized superpowers directly after Great Britain, which was then...
Is it weird that when I see old ships like this, it makes me feel a certain way? Like, it's not nostalgia because I never lived in this time, but have you ever gotten like a longing for a time you never experienced? I guess, you know what, I get the same feeling looking at old ocean liners like this is when I watch Dazed and Confused. It's weird, I know.
And falling into ultimate decline through the latter part of the 20th century. For years and years and years and decades, the winner of the Blue Ribbon had come from Europe or Great Britain. The last time an American ship had won the speed record for a transatlantic crossing was in 1854.
Boom.
So that was before Lincoln's presidency.
I know my boat
America
history.
had, after the 1850s, not really got too heavily involved in competing for the speed
I'm the trivia master.
crossing records because they just had other priorities. You know, they were building a pretty impressive merchant marine of moderate-sized ships.
Even these
that could
vessels
do
are beautiful.
all kinds of things, really like Swiss Army knife ships.
Yep.
And some really beautiful liners came out of this, you know, the next 60, 70, 80 years of American maritime history. But the speed record wasn't really on the radar until the Second World War, when the need for speedy troop ships came up. And so this is where the United States, as a piece of important history for the country, really rears its head, because this is the absolute zenith of the United States as a nation, its global power, its global influence, and not only that, but
It's because it was post-World War II and we had started our development into the American empire. We had just forced the rest of the world to start using the petrodollar, which led to a massive boom, as well as we were the last standing industrial superpower left in the world post-World War II, which allowed us to manufacture not only amazing things here stateside, but manufacture and ship off to the rest of the country, which through trade and taxation led to the boon of the American economy during the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s.
global standing as a leader in technology and culture. This is the 1950s now, and this is a time when Americans really felt like they could go anywhere and do anything. It was this unbridled era of optimism that was overshadowed in many ways.
It was also then, and we could watch a video about this tomorrow maybe, about the development of what's called the Atomic Ranch style house, something that is no longer really well deployed anymore in construction, but the quintessential 1950s, 60s think house with the slightly sloped architectural house, ranch, one story with a big picture frame window in the front. That is the beginnings, and not necessarily a garage, but more of a carport. Very, very baseline description of what's called the Atomic Ranch.
By the Cold War and the existential threat of the nuclear bomb, but as far as technology goes and as far as reaching for the stars, America felt like they could do anything. And the United States is kind of proof of this, is proof of this almost pre-cynical modern age that we live in now, back when people really thought that anything was possible. And what came of it was a really spectacular ship that was the fastest ocean liner ever built since or before. 100 years after the Americans last won the Blue Ribbon, they did it again by smashing the record of what had previously been the record holder for decades. And they did it in exceptional style. I guess one of the reasons why I'm upset about this is because the story of the SS United States is intrinsically linked with that of its designer and builder, William Francis Gibbs, who we've talked about a lot on this channel. And the reason why we talk about him so much is because the guy really stands out in the world of design as a whole, not just maritime history, but you think about some of the great product and machinery designers of our times, you know, Rudolf Diesel, Eames, the names that come to mind make you think of their product.
Damn, I muted my microphone. Hopefully that wasn't too long. Fun fact about Rudolf Diesel, died at sea. Yep. Lost at sea.
Dyson, from the modern age. They make you think of truly iconic pieces of architectural machinery. And Gibbs has to come to mind as someone at the very tippy top of this spectacular group of designers and industrialists and dreamers, because Gibbs had lived and breathed the United States, not just for the years leading up to its construction, but from all the way back from childhood. Gibbs had actually trained as a lawyer, and he was at law school, but he was obsessed with drawing ships. He was obsessed with designing dreadnought battleships and ocean liners, and he'd do it in his spare time, and eventually he decided to become...
When he says dreadnought battleships, he's not talking about the HMS Dreadnought. He's talking about the Dreadnought battleship class that then followed the development of the HMS Dreadnought, because at the time the HMS Dreadnought was the first in its line, and she was such a massive, impressive build by the British that then it led to every ship then similar size, gun size, and armor plating to then be classified simply as a Dreadnought class. And it's not the HMS Dreadnought battleship that then developed into the Dreadnought class wasn't the first HMS Dreadnought title. I believe it was also assigned to a ship of the line back in like the 1700s. But then they reused the name post World War One. Just after World War One, but before, because the Dreadnought, by the time World War II rolled around, the HMS Dreadnought was already technologically inferior to the development of the Dreadnought class ships that followed her. So she did, I believe, see a little bit of action in the English Canal. I think yes, because that's also the HMS Dreadnought is also where my sign-off line of "Bonga Bonga" comes from, because during the peacetime between World War II and World War I, the HMS Dreadnought, being the modern marvel that she was, had a bunch of world tours that she was put on, and then diplomats that would come and go on tours of the vessel. There were some English, I think, theater students, at least I know they're English college students, who put on a bunch of, blackface and garb from various cultures, pretending to be diplomats from a made-up land. And when they would walk amongst the ship and marvel at its advancements, they would all go, "Bunga bunga 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 bunga." And then after that story broke, years later during World War II, when the HMS Dreadnought was patrolling the English Canal, she either struck and sank or fired and sank a German U-boat in the area, and then the crew of the HMS Dreadnought, when radioing back, used the sign-off "Bonga Bonga" after they had relayed their information. So that's actually where my sign-off of "Bonga Bonga, frig off" comes from. It's from that little bit of history.
Become a naval architect instead. And he did it of his own volition because it was something he was passionate about, something he dreamt about. All of the kids and all of the young people in my Discord server spent hours making ships in Minecraft or drawing them by hand and sending them off for people for approval. Gibbs was one of them in an era when Discord didn't exist. Minecraft didn't exist. And as a young man, he eventually was able to hone his skills and become a very talented designer with his brother Frederick, and become a professional designer of ships. But in 1919, just after the First World War, he
I know my ocean liner history.
What up? Very long, very thin Greyhound ocean liner to win the blue ribbon for America, and he didn't get the chance to build it because no one was going to invest in it for a very, very long time. And finally, with the end of the Second World War, United States Lines and the government got together to finance such a ship, and they had exactly the guy in mind to design it, because Gibbs had been, for his whole career, designing all kinds of...
I know I just keep stopping on these pictures, but man, isn't that just a beautiful ship? Isn't that just the lines from the water line and like it complements each other so well. I know that it's very similar to the Cunard color palette, which kind of we'll say standardized color lines for ocean liners. But man, isn't that just beautiful?
Ships of different sizes, and he was an obsessive.
You can
There
help
is
with
no
that too.
doubt.
Shit, I
William
don't know.
Francis Gibbs was
Chase, my bad, dude. I don't remember what I was talking about. What can you help me with? My bad, dude. No, I'm sorry. And there's a little bit of a delay between the live stream and what you guys are seeing, like my recording and the live stream. I'm sorry, bud.
obsessed with the design of his ships. He became so terrified of fire at sea that he dedicated his time and efforts to make sure that there was no way that ships that he could design after the Morro Castle in 1934.
Morro Castle, that's what it was. Morro Castle, not the Casa Mora. Discord chat. All right, gotcha. Yes. I was gonna I was gonna message you later and be like, "What is Discord?" for real, dude. You're just gonna get a message from me. What is Discord? Caveman over here. I know my ocean liners. I don't know technology. I don't understand modern social media stuff so well, but I got you on some ocean liner knowledge.
Could burn. So imagine what it must have felt like for this now middle-aged William Francis Gibbs to finally be given the opportunity to design the ship that he'd been dreaming of since he was a child, and then professionally since 1919, to finally be given the opportunity to make it. It's such a great story. The ship really stands as a kind of monument to this daring do, this great American pioneering designer who actually went out there, had a dream, and did it and got it done. It's such a great thing. And so to see it destroyed or to see it sunk because now it's been left abandoned for years because nobody was able to match his pioneering vision in our modern age is devastating.
Yeah, why would we champion some guy that was like, yeah, I'm a lawyer. I love drawing boats. I'm going to build the biggest, fastest ocean liner ever built. And he went out and he did it. He just did it. And we don't like that in society anymore. We don't like it when people just go out and they just do the damn thing, right? Everyone wants to, it's crabs in a bucket mentality. We want to pull everybody down, right?
Devastating. So when we ask, is the United States historical and is it worth saving?
Yes.
And people say no because the interiors have been gutted out of it. The truth is, the insides of the ship kind of really don't matter that much. And in fact, at the time, they weren't really the highlight of the ship in the first place. They weren't ornate.
They weren't. They were very different
in the traditional
they were modern
sense. They
for
were
its time.
cool and
Yeah.
they were sexy in a kind of Mad Men mid-century way that was really
evolved
typical
with
for the time.
times.
But they weren't what was drawing people to the ship. What was drawing people to the ship was the fact that you could get across the Atlantic in just a long weekend instead of the better part of a week. Very impressive stuff. The ship itself.
She would settle in an average about 30 knots. I think when she set the speed record, she hit it at like 36 or 37 knots average speed.
Is history, the structure of the ship, the way the hull was designed, all of the thought.
So what I think would be cool, and I don't know if you can do it due to tidal, changes or ocean, depth, but I think it would be so cool if we had salvaged the United States and turned her into a museum and parked her right here next to the Statue of Liberty. You know what I'm saying? Just parked her right here so that it still embodied the idea of coming to America, still showing what we were and what we still aspire to be when done properly, when done legally. I think it would be just a beautiful landmark, or in this case, watermark, to park right next to the Statue of Liberty, showing, not only give me your tired blah, 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 all that shit that they wrote at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, but then also showing an homage, one of the great last vestiges of how people came here before the mass influx of global transit via ocean liner or via airliners, and then also the rapid expansion of information exchange through the internet. I just think it would be a nice tip of the cap to what once was, and then to park it right there next to the Statue of Liberty, I think would just be the cat's pajamas.
William Francis.
I feel like an interior would be pretty easy to replace and restore. Yeah, it would have, and not even change, not even restore her back into a functioning ocean liner, but as a museum, as a floating museum, or even as a floating entertainment venue. You turn it into a museum and then a casino, or a museum and a hotel, or a casino and a hotel. You know what I'm saying? There's enough space here that you could redesign it into a horizontal living space and float it right off of, oh shit, what is the island that the Statue of Liberty's on? Whatever, it escapes me right now.
And his team put into building it just so to make sure that its bow wave would be manageable, to make sure that its hull coefficient was just right, to make sure that it could, get every ounce of speed out of those huge engines and their propellers. And speaking of the propellers, the other reason the United States is really interesting, I think, is because it also kind of comes at this point in history where, times are changing. And for a big part of the American population who previously wouldn't have been able to work on such a project, suddenly there comes a pioneering female engineer, Elaine Kaplan, who leads the team designing the ship's propellers, the propellers that eventually will drive it on to win the...
And I'm not even one of those, like, Ellis Island. Yes, you are correct, Chase. Yes, Ellis Island, my guy. 2 points to you. You are now on the top of the leaderboard with 2 points for answering that correct. It is Ellis Island. I kept thinking Rikers Island, but I was like, that's a jail. And then I was like, Staten Island? Well, that's a place where people live. Ellis Island. My dude. Cheers. Bravo to you, man. You know your history, dude. Bravo. But see, even not only was it the first, biggest, fastest, and first of her kind, really, as far as the modern marvels were concerned on ocean liners, but also it was one of the first lead female engineers of the vessel. So there's a historical importance to the feminist movement right there, right? So all the more reason to keep her alive.
Record. So it's a huge part of American history, and anybody who says it isn't because the interiors have been ripped out of it, I just have to look at them and kind of shake my head. Like, what more do you want? what more would be considered historical?
Yeah.
I would be so curious. I get a little bit of a sense of how people might have felt back in, was it 1963 that they were going to be taking down Penn Station? And there was a massive public, response to that this is heritage. This is the people's heritage. And it didn't.
But see, Penn Station predated the ocean line. Well, it didn't predate the ocean liner, but unfortunately the SS United States came post World War II, major industrial expansion, current jetliner development. So she was, as I've said, the last vestige of a bygone era. So it's easy to forget. That's why people say, well, what historical feats? Well, she did do these historical feats. Biggest, fastest, beautiful, technologically advanced, engineered by first female to engineer the ship. But unfortunately, she came at the back end of a historical advancement, the end of World War II, and right at the cusp of the space age. So there's that little bit of middle ground that's forgotten about, kind of like how they tried to push, cowboy western content right then. So there's a brief little blip in history right before the atomic age led to the space age. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, she just gets forgotten. I love history. Tried to be a history teacher, but hated teaching because I hate school. Dude, I wanted to be a history teacher, but I don't do the schooling so well. I fucking feel you on that one, brother. We don't do stuff like that anymore. I see what you mean by bygone era. Exactly, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I sound like an old man over here, pining over days gone by, but it's just, it's not so much the roles that everyone played and the social norms of the time, but it's just the standard that people seem to have had for themselves and others around them. Look at the architecture of Penn Station here. Excuse me. We don't build buildings like this anymore. Modern architecture is so ugly. Look at the craftsmanship. Every single one of these blocks was laid by hand, tapped and measured. All this intricate work. The clock built by a team of people that put passion into it. That's no longer there anymore, dude. We just build big, ugly things.
Matter, because in the end it was pulled down. Here in Melbourne, you know, we have heritage laws for buildings now, but in the 1960s and
Melbourne
70s,
here. Look at these
before
buildings
then,
in
Melbourne
Melbourne.
had really been one of the most beautiful cities in the world. We had unbelievable buildings because Melbourne, my hometown, by the way, was...
We just slam things up in 90% of the time. The buildings end up having... Dude, you are so right, brother. You are so right. We just slam things up, and 90% of the time, the buildings end up having problems. Dude, you are so right. You nailed that, brother. You nailed that. I can't even add to it. There is zero fat. There is no fat in that, dude. That is 100% lean facts right there, bro.
Extremely rich from the gold rush that we'd had in the 1800s. And so these incredible buildings were put up.
Look at these.
And Whelan's, the wrecking company, was working with developers, going from one to the next and just kind of knocking them down one after another in this sort of fervent
Look at this.
orgy.
Look at all this, look at all this. The work. The time.
Of destruction.
Dude,
and
the time.
They knocked down some pretty spectacular buildings like the Federal Coffee Palace and put up in its place some, you know, office block.
Look at what once was and what is now. There it is. And that's not a political take. That's just a simple opposite. Dude, exactly, right? I'm always worried because I'm a little heavy-handed with my political opinions sometimes. But dude, just look at what once was here. This is in Melbourne. This isn't the United States, but it's a perfect comparison. Look at what once was there and what is there now. Ugly, soulless, intricate, beautiful, time, passion, care. And then to maintain structures like this, you have to care about what you do. Look at this. Look at this right here. Look at those. Look at that. And then this. Gray, glass, gross.
Right? Which really isn't doing much as far as culture and heritage of the city. And now we have laws protecting buildings. But the point is that in the 1960s, when Whelan's was going around wrecking all these buildings, those buildings, many of them that had been built in the 1900s, were only 60 years old. And so they were just
a sense of, like, I don't want to use the word national pride, but just a sense of pride in what you were and where you were, you know? Cities, even if they looked different, they still looked beautiful, you know? There was a sense of regional, you know, development. Certain things are put into it that are only found, craftsmen only found in your area that do things a certain way. You know what I'm saying? It's just no longer. It's just all cookie cutter, dude.
At the cusp of becoming truly historical. But it was only 60 years. It's when things get to the 70, 80, 90, 100 year mark that suddenly something flicks and people think, oh, that's important. We should save that.
Yep.
So here we are with a ship that was built in the early 1950s. The SS United States is just at the cusp of being what some people might consider, you know, historical, just purely by virtue of its age. But it's not old enough to kind of excite maybe the public. It's not 100 years old, you know, and maybe that's part of what's playing into why it's being not destroyed, technically.
It's kind of what I said. It's not old enough. You know what I mean? It fell right in that sweet spot there between post-World War II, pre-space race. And although she was a modern marvel, it just doesn't, in most people's minds, you got to be a dork, dude. You got to be an ocean liner dork like me, dude, an ocean liner nerd to really, like, understand it. And it's just, you know, most people think all ocean liners, you know, they're like, well, the Titanic, and they maybe have heard of, like, the Britannic. You know what I'm saying? But they don't know all of these unique vessels, their quirks, the stories that they were involved in, the lives that they lived, the parts of the world that they've seen. It's just, it never was part of that group, you know. She came at the end when it was just a little too late.
But why it's being sunk, because it's been sitting there as long as I've been alive. And
I will admit, though, that if she could not be salvaged, the next best option is to turn her into a reef. That is one thing that humans have been able to do that is pretty cool, and we have figured out ways to recycle things to the benefit not only of us, but also to the rest of the fucking planet, right? Like turning it into an artificial reef is, in my opinion, the next best thing you could do. Breaking her and scrapping her would be fucking sacrilege, dude. Yeah, the late 40s, early 50s history in general, I feel gets lost in the shuffle. That's where a lot of holes in my knowledge are, honestly. Yeah, dude. Well, and you think about it, because that like 20-year span post World War II, pre-space age, is just kind of like, for lack of a better term, kind of an American golden era where everything was very similar for about 15 years there. Culturally, everything was just kind of homogenous moving forward with the American dream. We all were kind of in lockstep. And then you think about it, the Cultural Revolution of the hippie movement, and then leading into the 60s, you know, you got Korea and Vietnam, which led to a development and an explosion into the counterculture wave. You can then also cite and say that that then led to the infiltration of, you know, anti-American rhetoric that then became slightly more mainstream and accepted, you know.
Nobody
Cold
has
War hadn't really
sought to
heated
save
up
it
yet.
or sought
exactly.
to
The Cold War hadn't really
protect it,
swung
except
into
for
full
the
effect yet.
efforts of the Conservancy that's been working to protect it. I know there's a lot of passionate people keen to see it saved. I told you at the start of this video, I'm angry, but I just don't know at who. I'm angry.
If only we could have gotten Elon Musk and had his tism. If his tism could have been about boats, he could have risen with the tism. Risen with the tism, Elon, and saved the boat.
At the US government. I mean, I did the math, and if America's government in the last 30 years was able to find half of 1% of what they spent on foreign military aid in 2022...
Over the last 30 years, we could have completely salvaged and refurbished the SS United States if over the past 3 decades we would have allocated and found half of 1% that the U.S. spent in foreign military aid, not even our own military aid, in foreign, 1/2 of 1% over a 30-year span. 1/2 of 1% that we spent in 2022, 1/2 of 1% that we spent in 2022 could have, in foreign military aid, could have completely saved the SS United States over 30 years. Just let that sink in, and just let that sink into where the priorities are, right?
Then the United States, the ship, would have not only been restored, but she could have been fully refurbished and installed on the US East Coast, in New York, in Chelsea. She could have been a floating residential tower or hotel or office block, or all of these things in Brooklyn, perhaps. You know, maybe there's a disused dock there. That
look, dude, I'm not even like I'm kind of a guy. Any money we can save as well, right? And dude, like I'm not necessarily like one of those guys that's like, oh, we can't have Social Security or Medicaid, but those are huge things that we are spending money on that are very, very important, that I think we need to reallocate some of our frivolous spending to the actual entitlement programs that benefit people stateside. And I know we're not getting into this whole America First political mumbo jumbo nonsense. I am an isolationist. I think that, you need to secure your oxygen mask before you can help other people. And 1/2 of 1% over 30 years, 1/2 of 1% that we spent in 1 year over 30 years could have saved a vessel. Just think of what 1% of 1 year over 30 years could do to help veteran affairs, or help with, I don't want to say the homeless problem, but figuring out ways to develop areas so that people have better access to more affordable homes, affordable housing, be it that we allocate money towards renovation of places that are no longer habitable, homes, apartment complexes that have collapsed. I do think it's kind of cool what we do with old high schools where they turn them into apartment complexes. I think that a lot of malls now that are going out of style. I have an idea for the Lansing Mall here in town. You could turn that into a one-stop medical facility for like elderly care, so they can have optometrists, cardiologists, their GPs, dentists, all in one facility there that's already structurally set up for it, and then also have various places so that you could have like the pharmacy in-house there at the mall. Does that make sense? Things that can kind of restructure and salvage what once was and refurbish it to something new. 100% we can do something to address with these issues. I think we can both agree neither of us are an expert, but if we could just do something with that money. Exactly. If we could just do something. Just spend the money more wisely. You know what I'm saying? Like, spend the money more wisely, I guess. Just put the money to better use. You know what I'm saying?
It should be put in anything like this. And there are some great examples in New York at the Chelsea Piers. And why didn't that happen to the United States? It's a bummer. I know economically it may not be super appealing to a lot of businesses. It's expensive to do these things, and business dictates that there's always.
I don't know what this is. I think it might be the QM2, or this is a mock-up drawing. Oh, it's a mock-up drawing. Gotcha.
Always going to be
that's what it could have been. That's what we could have had right there. A beautiful floating museum dedicated to a bygone era of how people sailed across. You got to think of the fucking balls people had, even on ocean liners, to just hump your nuts on a fucking ship to sail across the ocean to the New World. The nuts, dude, the balls on our ancestors. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if it were up to me and the roles reversed, my whole family would still be stuck over in Europe, because my honky ass ain't getting on no goddamn boat to splash across no goddamn ocean. Some bitch. Look, you see these? These are hands. These are not flippers, motherfucker. I am not meant to be in the water splashing about like a goddamn fish. Do you see wings? Hell no, you don't see no goddamn wings. I ain't supposed to be flapping around up in the sky, soaring like a fucking bird, dude. I got 2 feet, I'm bipedal as hell, and I am meant to be traversing the ground like the ape that I am.
Return. But how could the government, or how could some kind of cultural heritage organization not have been able to contribute or offset some of that cost to make it a viable or attractive option? It just absolutely blows my mind. A friend of mine was telling me recently that in Germany, there's the concept of the machine as heritage. And I mean, that exact mindset should be applied here. This is not just a rusting pile of steel. This ship is...
Look at her being built.
It's important. It really...
I think the construction, when you see them in dry dock like this and their slip just being built, it amazes me. It just fucking amazes me. The amount of manpower, brain power, the work that went into the collective effort that goes into constructing something like this is just mind-blowing when you sit down and you think about like things that you struggle with on a day-to-day basis. Like some of us struggle with math, some of us struggle with reading, and yet you got motherfuckers over here building this kind of shit, dude. It just like, I go to work and I'm like, oh, just another fucking day. There's no pride or in what I do. I'm very kneecapped, but like to go to work every day and to build something like this, just no fucking wonder people liked their jobs back in the day. No fucking wonder people took pride in their chosen career path, dude, because they built cool shit like this, man. And we don't fucking do that anymore, dude.
Is important. It harkens back to, in many ways, kind of a more innocent time. I mean, this optimistic era where America was on top. You know, being a symbol of when America was on top, I would have thought that the current administration, who are extremely interested in harkening back to a time when America was great, would be very interested in not seeing a ship which carries the name of the country on its front bow plate.
Well, Mike Brady, unfortunately, this is where I gotta be this guy. It would look very bad for the current administration. I understand what he's saying about they harken back to an older time, a bygone era, and being very conservative in their belief. However, with the hack and slashing that Elon and Doge is doing, if the current administration came out and started allocating any type of funds towards really any type of frivolous spending outside of the 250th birthday party that he wants to throw for the country, it would be scrutinized. And this is unfortunately something, it was privately owned, although it does bear the name of the United States, and it's something that should be privately saved. Tax incentives should be offered. However, this is something that someone like a Bezos or a Musk or a Zuckerberg could just easily just come and just do themselves. But this is unfortunately, in my opinion, not something that the taxpayers necessarily need to be prioritizing. If I'm going to say in one hand how we need to reallocate funds for the betterment of humanity stateside, i.e. veteran affairs, homelessness, food shortages, infrastructure, EMS, that type of stuff, then I can't then turn around and say we also need to fund the salvaging of a bygone ship regardless of how it makes me feel. But yes, private funding of this should have easily been able to find. Yeah, right now they are in cut mode. Exactly. Hack and slash, dude. Hack and slash. And I would have scrutinized it. As much as I want to see the ship be salvaged, I would have scrutinized it, because if you're gonna say it, you gotta say it. You can't start, splitting hairs.
It's in huge lettering. SS, United States. Would not want to see that be sunk. If only for the symbolic what it means or what it might look like to the rest of the world. It just absolutely blows my mind. So yeah, I'm bummed out. I'm really bummed out. I think that when you think about it, she's only one of 2 blue ribbon winning ocean liners still in existence above the ocean surface. So now we'll only have one, the Queen Mary. And she's only one of a small handful of ocean liners that still exist and are available to see from the public. Yeah, frustration.
That's how I feel. Just heavy sigh and frustration.
Frustration is the general feeling. Again, this isn't well-reasoned. I'm just kind of ranting at the camera. I know a lot of you will feel the same way, but I guess a small childish part of me is maybe perversely excited to see an ocean liner be sunk. I guess that will be a pretty spectacular.
If you've ever watched, obviously ocean liners and cruise ships take a long time to sink. But if you go and you watch, there is this harbor. It's like a in and out. People take their recreational vehicles in and out, and I think it's in Florida. But sometimes they be catching videos of people's ships or boats sinking. There is something very unsettling and just it. Look at this as she slips beneath the waterline. Isn't that just unsettling to see such a massive structure, something that isn't supposed to do what exactly she's doing? She's sinking. Doesn't that just make you feel kind of weird? It's an unsettling feeling.
Image. If we have to salvage anything out of it. But what a missed opportunity. Don't you think?
Yep.
Like what a spectacular thing this could have been. Moored in the...
God, look at how beautiful that would have been. Oh, man.
In Chelsea or something like that.
Damn, dude.
It's just sad. I just wonder what
just a bit outside
William Francis and his design team would think of it now if they were around. What it must have, what it would look like to them to see her go like that. Weirdly, I think, honestly, the best chance or the best time frame for the SS United States survival was really when Mad Men, the TV show, came out.
Yeah.
that was a global sensation, and the
people
world
were
was
really
suddenly
into
very
that era for a
interested
little
in
bit.
mid-century chic and design and
Especially
dress and
this
things
chick,
like
this
that.
redheaded chick with her big old fucking boobies. Woo! She has a set of knockers on her.
It even sparked, fashion changes and things like that. And I feel like that was the golden opportunity for the ship to kind of get the recognition that she needed to stay afloat. So I'm disappointed. Disappointed no one came forward to help her out. Disappointed that the nation that she had been designed to serve has let her down. And disappointed that in this very, kind of grim, cynical world where we're becoming so disconnected and disassociated with things.
Now, you can tell that she's a more modern ocean liner, because traditionally they had 3 stacks for the multiple. You would have 2 main engines and then like 7 or 8 auxiliary motors, and you would need to have 3 stacks to vent it all out. Some ocean liners, once they switched over from steam-powered coal to the more modern diesel and electric motors, they would still put a faux 3rd stack on there simply because it aesthetically looked like the ocean liners that people were accustomed to seeing. It wasn't until the mid to late 40s into the 50s, the last few ocean liners that were built, that they just eliminated the 3rd stack and went with the 2-stack standard. Now, if you went and you looked at a vessel like the Queen Mary and the Queen Mary II, and I would imagine that the math also lines up with most stacks of the time on ocean liners, the tilt on the stacks are actually like, this will be 1 1/8 inch over per foot, whereas the second stack would be like 1 1/16 inch over 1 foot. So that if you looked closely, you can see a slight change, but the tops of the stacks would all line up into a aesthetically pleasing line. They also then would develop the tilt on them to give it a more sleek look to the vessel, because as you've heard him say a couple of times in this video, they were the greyhounds of the Atlantic. Again, the big difference between ocean liners and cruise ships: ocean liners were speed. They were greyhounds designed to knife through the Atlantic waters to rapidly run. You could get to and from Europe to the United States and back in, you could do a round trip in less than a week or so, if averaging like 28 knots. And then, of course, the United States averaged at least 30 knots on her voyages. So it's a little bit of history on the aesthetics of the vessels.
Things that are important and that matter, that we think in many ways, many of us think that, attaching symbolic meaning to things is passé.
Dude, this video needs to hurry up. I gotta pee really bad.
Something that is a very, very real and tangible representation of a different time when people didn't think like that, when people could get excited at watching a newsreel of, America's flagship winning the blue ribbon before they went to go and see a movie or before the reel started playing. That is it's sad.
I feel like I've been doing this exact same thing.
Things really have changed. So yeah, we're going to see an ocean liner sunk. And Okaloosa County in Florida, I'm sure they're going to do a great job setting up a museum. And we would love to help in any way that we can if they'd be interested in that. But until then, we're just going to have to feel a little bit sad. Concept renders, a little bit sad. Yeah, this
has really been puckering my asshole all week.
A funnel and part of the bridge and all these sort of bits and pieces that they're going to have to cut off the ship to install in the museum, if that's the concept that they're going with, which could be cool, because then I guess you will technically be able to walk the decks of the United States, but it will just be a very small part of it. So hopefully they do a nice, tasteful job. But until then, it is time to say goodbye to an old friend, to a pretty spectacular,
an amazing vessel.
Did exactly what it was designed to do.
Without
cemented American supremacy at sea.
Yep.
And established a record that hasn't ever been beat.
Yep.
Since 1952, the United States has been the fastest ocean liner ever. She could do cracking exceptional speed. And it's all thanks to this passionate, pioneering design team that gave their all into designing their ultimate ship. And a great man who loved his ship so much. Tell you what, do yourself a favor. Get a copy of A Man and His Ship. It's a pretty great read. and it does a lot to explain why this ship is interesting and why it's historical.
Maybe I have to pick that up.
If you're somebody who, before watching this video, was saying that this ship has no historical merit because it's been gutted, and that it never did anything, read this.
So, God damn it. Whoops.
And tell me that you still agree with that, because...
Damn it. I was trying to pause.
I can almost guarantee it has no historical merit because it's been gutted, and that it never did anything.
All right. So if you look at this type of, oh God, I think it's like ocean liner chic or ocean liner. Can't think of the exact name of it, but this type of swooping architecture here that you see, the illustrations that you see, this is what influenced Superman, the animated series, architectural designs in the background of Metropolis.
Read this and tell me that you still agree with that, because I can almost guarantee your opinion might be changed. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy if you're still able to, and I'll see you again.
All right, so that was a little ocean liner designs for us. All right, so I hope that worked out for you guys. Hopefully it seemed to... Oh, wow, I'm doing pretty well here. No issues, no excellent, so good. All right, guys. Boom. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow. Probably between 10 and 11 a.m. is what I'm targeting for, so that we can do our normal hour-long live show. I know this ran a little long, but I appreciate you guys sticking around. Chase, I will shoot you a message here in a little bit. I got to go pee. You guys have a good rest of your day. You've been an attentive audience. I've been Hat and Beard. Bonga bonga. Frig off.